if I told you the largest passenger aircraft ever built, an engineering masterpiece capable of carrying over 800 people, was never flown by a single US airline? The Airbus A380, a double-decker giant with unmatched luxury and scale, promised to change air travel forever. Yet in the skies over America, it became an outsider, admired but rejected. Why did the United States, home to the busiest airports and biggest airlines, turn its back on the A380? Was it too big, too expensive, or was it just too late? In this video, we'll uncover the real reasons why the Airbus A380 failed in the US market. From business strategies and airport limitations to shifting travel trends and hidden design flaws, we'll reveal the lesser-known truths behind this massive jet's American no-show. So stay with us until the end, because the story of the A380 in the US is far more surprising than you think. Welcome to Airplane Curious, where we uncover the untold stories of the skies. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a flight into aviation's most fascinating. The Airbus A380 is the largest commercial passenger jet ever built. With 2 full-length decks and a capacity of over 800 passengers in an all-economy configuration, it was designed to transform long-haul air travel. And yet, despite its size, power, and prestige, not a single US airline ever added it to its fleet. American Airlines, Delta, United, none of them placed an order. None of them operated a single A380. That might sound shocking. After all, the United States is home to some of the world's busiest international airports and biggest airlines. On paper, the A380 seemed like a perfect fit. But behind the scenes, the math and logic just didn't work. The A380 was created with a specific type of airline operation in mind, the hub and spoke model, where massive aircraft shuttle passengers between major international hubs. This is how airlines like Emirates and Singapore Airlines operate. They moved thousands of passengers through centralized super hubs, making large aircraft efficient and profitable. But US airlines operate differently. Instead of concentrating traffic through 1 or 2 mega hubs, they spread flights across multiple cities. Delta, for example, has hubs in Atlanta, Detroit, Minneapolis, Salt Lake City, and more. American and United follow a similar approach. Their business model depends on frequency, flexibility, and smaller wide-body aircraft that can serve a broader range of routes more efficiently. The A380, with its sheer size and seating capacity, didn't align with this structure. It required a constant stream of high passenger volume between specific city pairs to make financial sense. For US airlines, that kind of volume wasn't reliable, especially not on enough routes to justify such a massive investment. So while the A380 did land in the US, it was always flown by foreign carriers. US airlines watched from the sidelines, admiring the super jumbo, but knowing it simply didn't fit their world. Airbus designed the A380 for one thing: mega hub-to-hub routes. It was built to haul hundreds of passengers between major airports in a single jump. This model, hub and spoke, collects people from smaller cities at a central hub and then sends them onward in giant aircraft like the A380. But the airline industry changed. Thanks to ETOPS long-range certification, twin-engine jets like the Boeing 787 and Airbus A350 could fly long-haul routes directly. No need to route everyone through big hubs or fill a 500-plus seat behemoth. This marked a shift toward point-to-point travel, which meant airlines preferred smaller, more frequent flights. US carriers did not fly this giant because they don't operate like Emirates or Singapore Airlines. They run multiple hubs, focusing on flexibility and frequency, not moving mass crowds with one huge flight. On Reddit, one pilot commented, "The A380 is designed for the hub and spoke model of aviation. The only airlines that don't use a hub and spoke are LCCs. And if one A380 goes down, it's going to cost the airline a lot of money." Emirates uses a centralized hub in Dubai. It collects passengers from all over, loads them onto A380s, and sends them out worldwide. This model works well for a super jumbo. By contrast, Delta has hubs in Atlanta, Detroit, Minneapolis, Salt Lake City, and more. Each hub handles moderate traffic. Airlines need smaller jets to match the demand across many routes. One giant plane couldn't serve all those lines efficiently. Another user summed it up: US carriers can't operate that model well. US airports are not set up for that model.
At the heart of the A380's problem in the United States was money. A lot of money. From the start, the A380 was a costly aircraft to operate. It has 4 engines, each massive, powerful, and expensive to maintain. Compared to modern twin jets like the Boeing 787 or the Airbus A350, the A380 burns significantly more fuel per mile. Fuel costs are one of the biggest expenses for airlines. A 4-engine aircraft consumes more fuel even when it isn't full. Add in the cost of maintenance, more crew, and heavier landing fees, and the economics start to spiral. For US airlines focused on tight margins and high efficiency, this didn't make sense. Another issue was capacity. The A380 was designed to carry 500 to over 800 passengers, depending on the layout. That might work for very specific long-haul international routes, but filling that many seats consistently? That's a major challenge. US airlines operate in a market where passenger demand is more spread out. Domestic routes can't handle that volume, and even many international flights don't pull those numbers daily. When a plane that big flies with empty seats, profit margins vanish quickly. Compare that to the twin-engine Boeing 787 or the Airbus A350. These aircraft use less fuel, cost less to maintain, and carry fewer passengers, usually between 250 and 350. That means they're easier to fill, can fly more frequently, and remain profitable. They also fit into more airports, have more flexible route options, and are better suited for point-to-point travel. Even the older Boeing 777 became more attractive once ETOPS rules allowed it to fly long distances with just 2 engines. US carriers, looking at the balance sheet, saw a clear winner, and it wasn't the A380. In the end, the numbers never favored a plane that big, that expensive, and that inflexible. The Airbus A380 wasn't just big in the sky, it was big on the ground, too big in many cases. At 239 feet long with a wingspan of nearly 262 feet, the A380 stretched the limits of what most airports could handle. Simply parking it at a terminal required custom-designed gates with dual jet bridges, one for the upper deck and one for the lower deck. Most US airports weren't built for that, and very few were eager to rebuild terminals just to accommodate one type of aircraft. Taxiways and runways were another major concern. The A380's massive weight and wingspan meant it needed wider taxi lanes, longer runways, and stronger tarmac to support the pressure on the landing gear. In many cases, ground crews had to use special procedures to move the A380 around an airport without interfering with other planes. But that wasn't the only issue. Because of its size and weight, the A380 was classified under Wake Turbulence Category Super. This meant it generated much stronger turbulence behind it compared to smaller aircraft. As a result, air traffic control had to leave larger gaps between an A380 and any following planes, both during landing and takeoff. This caused delays and reduced runway efficiency, something that busy US airports like JFK, LAX, and O'Hare could hardly afford. Even where space existed, accommodating the A380 meant slowing down the rest of the operation. Then came the cost. Upgrading airport infrastructure to fit the A380 wasn't cheap. Estimates ran into the hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars, depending on the airport's size and condition. Without guaranteed demand from US carriers, most airports simply didn't see a return on that kind of investment. The result? Very few airports in the US were equipped to welcome the A380, and those that were only did so for foreign airlines already committed to flying it. When Airbus first announced the A380 in the 1990s, it was seen as the future of air travel. But that future took a long time to arrive. Development delays piled up. Wiring issues, design changes, and production setbacks pushed the timeline further and further. The aircraft's first flight didn't happen until 2005, and commercial deliveries only began in 2007, almost 2 decades after initial plans were drawn. By the time the A380 was ready, the airline industry had already changed. In the 1990s, the idea of flying massive numbers of passengers between giant hubs made sense. But by the mid-2000s, airlines had begun to favor smaller, more flexible aircraft. The introduction of long-range twin-jet jets like the Boeing 787, the Airbus A350, allowed carriers to fly long distances without the need for 4 engines. The key shift was an ETOPS certification. ETOPS, short for Extended Range Twin Jet Operational Performance Standards, allowed twin jets to operate routes that were once only possible with 4 engines. This made the newer aircraft far more cost-effective, especially on long-haul flights across oceans or remote regions. Twin jets could now connect cities directly, without routing everyone through megahubs. This created a problem for the A380. Its entire design was based on the idea of moving a large number of passengers between major hubs. But the market had already moved on.
Airlines wanted efficiency, flexibility, and lower risk. They didn't want to gamble on a 600-seat aircraft that could only serve a few routes. The A380, once the promise of the future, had already fallen behind before it truly began. While Airbus was focused on building the biggest passenger aircraft the world had ever seen, Boeing was quietly taking a very different path. Airbus believed in the hub-to-hub future. The A380 was their answer to growing airport congestion, limited landing slots, and rising international traffic. But Boeing bet that airlines would prefer flexibility and efficiency over size, and that bet would shape the next 2 decades of commercial aviation. Instead of creating a super jumbo, Boeing improved its twin-engine wide-body fleet. The Boeing 777, introduced in the 1990s, offered long-range performance with just 2 engines. It became a workhorse for international carriers. Then came the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, launched in 2011, which pushed fuel efficiency even further. Built from lightweight composite materials, it promised up to 20% lower fuel burn and the ability to fly long-haul routes more economically than ever before. These aircraft allowed airlines to operate point-to-point routes, bypassing traditional hubs and reaching new cities with fewer passengers and lower costs. For US carriers like United, Delta, and American, this model made perfect sense. Their networks were spread across multiple hubs and relied on high frequency rather than massive volume. The 777 and 787 fit easily into that strategy. Boeing also had a home field advantage. Most major US airlines had long-standing relationships with Boeing, including fleet compatibility, maintenance agreements, and training systems. Airbus, although successful globally, still faced resistance in breaking deeply rooted loyalty within the US market. The A380's design, its 4 engines, enormous size, and limited airport compatibility didn't align with what Boeing had been offering, or what US airlines needed. While Airbus pursued a bold vision of air travel centered on volume, Boeing responded to the market's desire for reach, efficiency, and reliability. By the time Airbus realized the shift, Boeing had already won over the carriers that might have once considered something bigger. In the end, it wasn't just the size of the A380 that kept it out of the US. It was the fact that Boeing gave airlines a smarter alternative at exactly the right time. The Airbus A380 was nothing short of a marvel, an aircraft that redefined what was possible in aviation. It was the largest passenger plane ever built, a true symbol of ambition and innovation. But in the United States, that ambition never took off. The reasons were clear. The economics didn't work. The hub-and-spoke model that the A380 was built for didn't align with the structure of US airline networks. The infrastructure needed to support such a large aircraft was expensive and rare. It entered the market too late, just as airlines were moving towards smaller, more efficient aircraft. And Boeing, with sharp timing and strategy, offered exactly what US carriers were looking for. In many ways, the A380's quiet failure in the US marks the end of the jumbo jet era. Airlines today are chasing fuel efficiency, flexibility, and lower risk. The future belongs to twin-engine workhorses like the Boeing 787 and the Airbus A350. Aircraft that quietly crisscross the globe without needing headlines or headlines. Still, the A350 leaves behind a powerful legacy. It showed what engineering could achieve, even if the world didn't quite need it anymore. If you enjoyed this look into the rise and fall of the A380 in America, please give this video a like and subscribe to Airplane Curious for more deep dives into aviation's most fascinating stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.